Well, hi. Welcome, welcome. This will be August, won't it? This is August reading for Aries, my darling Aries. So I hope you got through July okay. We are peak winter down here, so that has really intensified in the last week or so. So we're going through that darkness and that coldness. And that deep integration hibernation mode, which is so important. I think it's important to honor winter for everything that it allows us to process. We're not very good at slowing down, are we? We're not very good at being told to rest, sit down, be quiet, take it slow. And I think that opportunity is so great. And for a lot of you, you're in peak summer. So hopefully you have heaps of energy. Wow, this is a lot of smoke today. We must need a lot of smudging from the month behind us, heading into the month in front of us. So thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everyone on this platform. You've all been wonderful, asking excellent questions. Even when it's challenging, you're very eloquent with your words. So I appreciate that. And sounds like a lot of you are really keen to learn, which is awesome. And following action steps, putting it into place, watching the readings, but then, making notes and seeing how that shows up, which is excellent. We are using only the Stalk Your Shadow deck today. I think you guys can handle it. And what I really wanted to do was a new type of reading. So I want to keep on mixing it up. So we're developing our skills. There's going to be an anchor card, which is going to be our overall focus for the reading. And that's going to tell us about the overriding themes, the things we can stay connected to. I really love anchor cards because it reminds us that through the story, through the chaos, through the bliss, there is this, what we call a training program that your guides are trying to take you through so that you can understand that there's bits that are meant to be challenging, there's bits that are meant to be easy, there's bits that are meant to be deep and dark, and then there's meant to be a release and a resolution involved. So that's often what we talk about at the Ankara Academy in the Patreon group in our courses is for you to really learn evolutionary lessons. Your guides will take you through training programs, which is, okay, we really need to understand the depths of our relationship cycles. Okay, let's go through that. You might see that as, Pluto in your relationship house in astrology. They might want to take you through the depths of what it means to look after yourself. That's a training program too. So the anchor card will tell us about the training program that we're in for this month. And then I want to do 3 cards that represent your journey towards higher states of consciousness: 3D, 4D, which is our pivot place, and 5D, where we're hoping to stabilize, right? A little disclaimer on this. I've talked to a lot of people last week that have reported that they are ascending too quickly. This can be a problem. If that's the case, remember to go back to basics, go back to 3D, make your life very physical, ground in, build your resources, and then start again. Otherwise, it can be very fragmenting and you can be pushed and pulled in too many directions. So remember your 3D anchoring point, Ankara means anchor, is the most important place to start. So start slowly, build your resources, build safety and structure first, then move into intuition development and see if you can stabilize and integrate each learning, each training program, whatever the language is for you. So Aries, wherever it sits in your chart and wherever you're exploring, let's have a look. All right, and if you've got this deck, follow along with me. Maybe write down the cards that come through and work through the booklet in your own way so you get even more awareness, knowledge, resonant points. This has been coming up a lot. So our anchor card for Aries is the bat. Now, the bat comes through when we're running societal conditioning programs and we have to put them under the microscope, right? So am I afraid of success? Am I afraid of doing better? Am I afraid of upgrading? Am I afraid of being more functional, more safe, more well because of my own legitimate fears, or because society has conditioned me to fit in, to seek comfort, to stabilize and sit and just work towards retirement, something like that? Remember, there's a lot of gender conditioning out there. So there's a lot of story and narrative in people's minds around what men do and what women do and what men should be and what women should be. I think a lot of that conditioning is breaking away. And what we really need to do is let it break away and truly come to a place of, well, what do I want to embody? What do I want to represent? How can I balance the masculine and feminine within me? And what does that look like? And where are my shadow weaknesses? Where are the unseen parts? Where have I got all this from? And how far back does that go, right? So it's not just mum and dad, it's 14 generations ago. So down the line, and that's the ancestral piece, but the bat comes in to say, you're terrified of something that you don't really need to be terrified of. Now, terrified is, I can't even go near it, right? It's accentuated and concentrated fear. So think about phobias, for example, and that brings that sort of analogy up, doesn't it? It's like, are you actually scared of the bat and what it can do, or the spider and what it can do? Or are you afraid of the imagination sense of what it was like when you were a child, or this imagination that they're going to crawl all over you? It's like you're terrified of something that isn't likely to happen, because animals and creatures smaller than us are more afraid of us than we are of them. The likelihood of spiders wanting to crawl all over you is a little bit ridiculous. Most spiders want to get away from us because we are a threat. And same with bats. It's like the story and the symbolism and the association is worse than an actual creature, because they're generally loving and sweet and up to their own business. So I wonder what the terror is for you, Aries, as we go through the evolutionary journey. What is it that's not actually yours that you're afraid of? Maybe that's someone else's. Maybe that's your great grandmother's fear. Maybe that's her loss. Maybe it's society. Maybe it's the people around you that are so afraid that you're going to be healthier, stronger, more capable, more confident, more competent. And that brings up stuff in them. And you see this, don't you? It's like you start pursuing something that's really meaningful. You start getting your shit together. You start getting fit, getting healthier, getting organized. And that can send a really strong signal to people, because maybe they're not doing that. Maybe they're not striving that way. Maybe they're not dealing with their shit at all. And it can be this noticeable, like, what are you doing that for? Like, why would you want to do that? Why don't you just want to be happy with what you've got? And that can project this this weight onto you, can't it? So the bat is really asking you to look at that. There's something you're afraid of that isn't yours, and it's probably coming from society's conditioning, which is a compounding interest scenario, right? And what is it that you want to do and achieve, and what is it you want to experience that puts that conditioning at threat? Might upset people. You might have a fear of judgment. You might have a fear that no one's going to love you if you reach that place. Have a look at all of that and decide logically and intuitively if it's that big and that important. And are you going to try anyway? Are you going to go and experience it? And, you know, if you being fitter, healthier, more confident, more well upsets people, then I guess they're not really the people that you're going to learn and grow very well with, are they? I think that's different to having conversations around, you know, like, how does my growth affect you? And do you feel ignored or left behind in some way? And how can we talk about that? Because generally what I'm doing is not anything to do with you, although I want to stay connected. So down in the 3D, we have the mole, right? Now, what I love about this card is moles live underground. They have their whole system going on where they're away from predators, right? So sometimes we have to go underground. Sometimes we have to go within, check out from everybody else's stuff, recalibrate, restructure, and find that really dense, protection's not the right word, but it feels like sometimes we have to go in and reestablish what we're doing and why. And that's really important. So what I see with my students is every time they upgrade, we allow them to go back and address their 3D issues. So if you saw that video on the basin of safety, that's the primary conversation that says, if you want to become more safe, more well around a bigger community, more safety in your body, more resources all the time, then we address that at the same time we address the upgrade. When the upgrade comes in, you say, okay, now that I'm at this level of consciousness and awareness, what do I need to change that makes this sustainable? Because it's a different operating system, right? It's like, well, now I know all this stuff. Kind of like if you go through dense therapy and you heal something, you're like, well, now I'm not the person or the victim from that story. I'm actually the hero that moves through it. So what does the hero need from a 3D sense? It might need better environment, better boundaries, more energy in the tank, more money in the bank accounts, more structure, more organization, more people to network with. It's like when that comes in, we have to go in, restructure, get it all organized before we can embody that upgrade well. So remember, I was saying some people are ascending too quickly. It's because they don't have the basin of safety full. You know, they want to dance in ascension and 5D and looking at all the parameters of that and different solar systems and frequency patterns, multidimensional, all sorts, right? Beings of all different calibers. If your basin of safety isn't full, you're going to be stretched too far. And this is a huge risk for mental health patterns. So this is when visions become delusions. This is when voices become harmful. We really need to keep that basin super full. So go back, go underground, so to speak. So go a little bit MIA, tap out of what everything is going on out there and say, right, what do I need? What are the resources that I'm trying to cultivate for myself? What systems do I have in place? What structures do I have? What routine do I have to get this going? Do I have goals? Have I chunked them down? And what am I doing every day to get to them? So that you're building resources. I say to some of my members in the Patreon portal when they get very low, and they generally get very low when they get that upgrade, they go, oh, so now I've got all these guides and all these resources and like everything's available to me. Looking down at my 3D life, oh dear, I have some work to do. And that just means we go for 1% improvement in your resources every day, right? No drastic detoxes and crazy exertions, right? We want 1% in the tank, 1% in the tank, so that you are incrementally becoming more safe, more well, more resource rich, holding the upgrade, which is like, yep, my guides are there. I'll be ready to work with them when I have this stuff sorted. And a lot of the time it's structuring the home environment, making sure there's a fitness routine, making sure I have a savings goal or I am accumulating rather than leaking, right? It can be paying off your debts, getting them sorted first before you dance up here, because otherwise you're going to dance up here and your 3D life's going to fall apart and you won't want to hang out there because you're too busy up here, right? We have to be careful of that fracturing nature of ascension. You know, it's not just sitting in meditation one day and saying like, oh, I get it. It's more sitting in meditation every single day that you want to keep moving up. So if you want to keep going into higher states of awareness, every single day you meditate. Every single day you look after yourself. Every single day you connect with nature. Every single day you speak to your guides. That's the nature of it. You can sit and integrate, which means I'm not going to move forward here. I'm going to sit with it. And that's just sitting in silence. That's not actively meditating and trying to get to states. It's more just I'm going to sit, nourish, respond, witness, observe, watch what nature does. And usually nature signals to you, okay, we're ready again. So that we are moving up, integrating, not huge upgrades and then not being able to let it stick. So that can be too many portals open at one time through a ritual, through a plant medicine, through psychedelics, through something that's like a huge awakening. No structure, no support network. You're in a risky territory if you don't know how to close those portals, if you don't know how to ground yourself very quickly. So we have to make sure that we're not opening with nothing to ground us in, right? Nothing to provide structure, which is so important for our safety, right? The pivoting point, which is the 4D, so this is the dream space, the heart space. It is not meant to be a place where we sit for too long. In my internal downloads, it's a pivoting place where we can actually move through. So 3Ds is lower bottom chakra orientated. 4D is moving into a heart space, letting your heart govern your life. It's a very dreamy space so that we can pivot through to the higher centers. So heart chakra and higher is again in that 5D space, but you have to have the grounding of the first three. Heart needs to be open, right? Because otherwise we run the risk of going back into those ego traps, yeah? So I know that's a lot of information, but the replay's there for you to watch anytime. So the elk in the 4D space is pretty hard message actually, but it's not your responsibility to solve anybody else's problems. It's not your responsibility to solve the Earth's problems. It's not your responsibility to solve humanity's problems. You didn't directly create them. You don't have responsibility to right the wrongs of the past. I think it's awesome to be aware of that, to have compassion, to start the conversation, to do your bit, but please don't take responsibility for other people's burden, their problems, their mental health, their lack of initiative, their lack of action. Your responsibility is to take care of you. Once you've fully mastered that, and that might take the rest of your life, then you can move into looking after people around you and looking after your community, and then start looking after something bigger, right? Really important that we hone it in back into sovereignty, which says my mess is my own. And if I'm addressing that mess, that's awesome. But what I see a lot of is I find more subconscious and unconscious joy and worth in taking responsibility for someone else's problems and helping them fix that while leaving my life in a mess. So Mole is really saying you're going to have to bring your focus in away from other people, sort your own shit out, take responsibility for it. If you don't have the money that you want, take responsibility. If you don't have the time that you want, take responsibility. The energy, the support network, the people, the situations, take responsibility. What are you doing about it? I'm not saying it's a quick fix. I'm saying you got to build the structures around moving you forward into that, right? If you need help with that, let us know. We've got many courses to start that off, right? In structure, in learning, in incremental parts. Yeah, it's not a quick fix scenario. It's generally a long, beautiful process, and that's what we want it to be. If you can organize those two factors. 5D for you, Aries, is about leadership. It is about flying high. That doesn't mean looking down. That means taking a higher perspective. 5D is about, okay, so what on a grander scale could I be here for? How can I take responsibility for a higher mission of some kind? And what level of understanding am I willing to participate in and consent to with that mission? So people love the idea of a mission, but when you start to reach and cultivate a sense of purpose, you realize that that sense of purpose is also like, wow, this is going to be a really big job, and this is a lot to handle, and this is a lot of responsibility. To try and solve this problem that I see, to try and work to serve humanity and the environment, and be that caliber of a person, we need to stay humbled in that and say, well, this is what I've signed on for, and that's what I believe is true for me. A lot of people say, like, I want to be a leader and I want to be a teacher, and cool. So that usually means You want to be a leader, you're going to have to get all your 3D and 4D lives sorted so that you can lead authentically, which says you're walking your talk towards the things that you want to teach and lead people through is the things that you must go through yourself, right? So you better have your stuff in order to get there so that you can lead from a place of, you know, I'm not perfect, but I am addressing my 3D life. I am literally doing the things that I'm teaching. I believe in those things. And it's a responsibility for me to be in that place of authenticity and integrity to then teach others. Otherwise, we can shortcut to the mission and realize that we've got nothing to fall back on. So where are my support structures? Where are my leadership coaches? Where's my daily diligence of having that purpose and moving towards it? Because generally, cultivating purposeful actions means showing up to something really big every single day, which is I want to help people. I want to regenerate the environment. I want to solve this problem in society. And look, that's a really big job. That's going to take me decades, likely. And I'm going to go through trials and tribulations, tests and setbacks, mistakes and failures. But am I prepared to create the life that I need to move forward to that process and hold myself in that it is a blissful yet difficult, challenging road, right? And if you look up to any leaders, space holders, whatever they are for you, having a look at how they've managed to endure through all of that so that this higher state of awareness is purposeful, right? Because what do we do with unconditional love and expansiveness and abundance? What do we do when our 3D lives feel good and we're not going into those ego traps? And what do we do from the heart space? And how do we serve that aligns with us? I don't want you to serve in a way that isn't authentic to you. If you don't want to pack your bags and go up into the Himalayas and meditate for the rest of your life, then how are we going to do it? And how can we be of service, knowing that it is that call up into being an influential force? It is that call of changing the game for you and being that for someone else. You know, eagles have pristine vision. They have such sharp vision that can focus in and focus back so they can see their prey. So generally, working with an eagle totem is being able to see so much, but we must have the discipline and the structure of the 3D. Otherwise, eagles are those that I work with that have eagle totems. They can dance up in the higher meanings, the alignment, the upgrades and all of that, but nothing much is being done on the ground level. So when you're flying higher than the other birds, how can we use that with a sense of humility, humbleness, responsibility? How can we take care of those that aren't in that state of awareness? So if you can see something playing out with more detail and someone's stuck in an ego tantrum, in pain, in victim voice, you know, rather than looking down and going, oh, that person's stuck, they should really sort it out. It's like, well, how can I aid or serve them from my state of awareness, right? What I hear the most, which I think is not using that sense of responsibility well, is I wish everyone would hurry up and wake up. Well, what are you doing about helping people to wake up? Don't just dribble at them the stuff that you know, particularly not if it's stuff that creates more fear. What are you doing in your life to represent an awakened state and to serve others, you know, to invite, to encourage, to nourish them up, to allow them to see their own pain and their own victimization, to allow them to move through that, to create a safe container so they can come here and dance with you up here and say, like, what's our higher vision? This is awesome. We could do this together, right? Let's soar together rather than have competitiveness and rather than have condescending power struggles too. So this is going to be interesting, Aries. Comment below if it's resonating and what's resonating. Do you feel that the 3D card's really difficult for you? Does the bat really resonate? How's the eagle sitting as well? I'm interested in what parts of that you need to focus in on and what sort of stirred something within you. And I will see you next month. So much love. Don't forget that we have all sorts of offerings and we do this sort of stuff over in Patreon in a closed, private, safe container all the time. So I'd love to see you there. Bye.